Welcome to this week's episode of Town Talk. I'm your host, Joe Reddy, executive produced by Dennis Reddy, here with my lovely co-host, Jessica Donahue. All right, who's our next guest?
Next this evening we have Ray Mascola, Targeting Sales Growth, founder and sales leader.
Hey, Ray.
Hello, welcome. Good, thank you.
Wow, it's a pleasure having you on. So, best to clip it to the polo. There you go.
Okay.
So, Ray, we're glad to have you on. I know we were trying to get you on last season, but...
Yeah, I appreciate it. And Jessica, you did a lot of work putting this together for me to be here. So I found the place. I feel like I'm down in a bunker. The cell phone doesn't work, which is good.
That is great.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Ray, and tell us about your business and what you do.
Okay. I have a business. I'm based in Westford, but I work all over. It's called Targeting Sales Growth. I have a long background in sales. I left the corporate world 3 years ago, and I have this business. And with Targeting Sales Growth, what I do is help companies get to the next level. I help them target in the marketplace where and how to grow their business.
Okay. Give us a little more insight as to how that works.
Sure. What I thought today, there was I had three topics that might be good in terms of general conversation. One is about focusing on a company's unique value. Another one is figuring out what's really important, goals versus tasks. And another one is building relationships. This is what I do with my clients, and this is what I suggest my clients do with their prospects.
Okay.
So as a start, a lot of companies I have all the respect in the world of companies that have their own business, like you and your father. I think some companies focus on the bells and whistles of their product, not the end unique value that they provide to their clients. So what I help them do is figure out and talk about the impact that their product or service has on their customers. So we can tell a little story. What was the problem that they have, their clients? What was the solution that you provided, a product or a service? And the big thing is, what was the result, the impact of your stuff on your customer's business after they bought your product? And then we can start to come up with the unique value that your product has over the competition. And people like to hear a story, a success story. It can be put on a website, and it kind of then helps focus on where can you replicate what you did with this unique client elsewhere. Right. And that's what I help them do.
So would you package that? I mean, obviously when people are trying to come up with a unique value, I mean, people have what they call like the 2-minute elevator pitch. I mean, is that part of it? I mean, is it really coming up with your unique value that you add and trying to package it so people can understand it in a quick and efficient way? Or?
You're right. The elevator pitch, you're on an elevator and I'm on an elevator with you, and you ask me what do I do, and I've got to have a crisp answer by the time we get to floor 17. Okay, so people, my clients, and I help them do this, need to understand what is the impact, again, of your product. How does it really help somebody else's business? And what I usually do, it's B2B, business to business. So we're trying to understand where they can grow their business, where they can get it to the next level. So let's have a clear story of how you help the business. And hopefully you can have a quantitative answer in terms of dollars and cents, as well as a qualitative answer. You help with processes and help them operationally run their business better, and they cut costs or they increase sales. That's the kind of thing I help them as a start. One of the things to get into, did you have any questions about that?
What I think is interesting is, I mean, you're geared towards business, which is fantastic, and the general audience, not everybody is a business owner, but I think what you're talking about can actually be applied to anyone's life in general.
Absolutely.
I mean, most people go through life, they have to do basic functions of interviewing for jobs.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing, right? Because you're adding you know, you're telling people what your unique value is, whether that be yourself or in this particular case we're talking about businesses, right? They're talking about their products and services, but you know, anybody could actually apply some of these things that you're talking about.
And that's an excellent point to bring up, is what is your uniqueness in what you do? It's to help be able to tell your personal story, whatever it is, telling your personal story. One of the things I wanted to, a couple of more things which kind of focus on what you just said, it's understanding what's really important. In terms of, one of the things I talk about is people, and I'm somebody that keeps having to remind myself this, focus on your goals, not your task. It's so easy to, you know, I'm a list guy. I have my list and I can cross this out and throw it away. But there's working in the business and working on the business. That's helping you look beyond the day-to-day things and how you can grow your business. What do you need to do in terms of goals versus tasks? And that can apply, using your example, in your personal life. You're working in your life in terms of cutting the lawn, paying the bills, you know, getting ready for with those ice dams things, but working on your life in terms of what are your long-term goals, how do you need to get there, what do you need to do, and I, in my personal business and my personal life, I try to do that, and then in helping my clients, it's something we need to do. And everybody is really busy, and the type of clients I have, it's really tough and a challenge to get them to look above the day-to-day tactics and to provide sometimes on strategy and where you go. And it certainly applies to life too.
Yeah, it's almost one of those where sometimes you got to look at your processes, right? And say, you got to try to find efficiencies, right, so that you don't have to work as hard. Yeah. You know, it's that's really a key goal, I think, for some business owners. They're kind of tripping over themselves, right?
Right. And how can you do things better? The biggest thing is not make the same mistakes over and over and know what a mistake is. Sometimes you're doing something a certain way and it doesn't, and one of the things I come in and help, sometimes it's internal processes that I help with just to help them find maybe a better way to do it or a better way to help their staff do something better. The third part I wanted to get into, which certainly talks about life in general, is building relationships. You build relationships in the personal life, you build relationships in your business life. And one of the things, there was a book that I try to follow, you may have heard of it, called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It was written...
Mr. Stephen Covey himself?
You got it. It was written in the 80s. He's a business guru, and it really went beyond business to personal life. And the one that I try to follow is seek to understand before wanting to be understood. And again, that's from your point, it's a personal goal as well. So in building relationships, it's about building trust and building credibility. So following the 80-20 rule, you want the other person talking 80% of the time and 20%, and you look to understand, and I try to do this, look to understand what my clients' issues are, what I call speed bumps, before I'm not going to come up with any solution if I don't know what the issue is, and maybe I'm not a fit, and sometimes I've walked away. So I came up with a couple of, in the 80-20% rule, how do you do that? Well, you ask open-ended questions. And so if you and I were talking and I would say, would you tell me a little more about that? As opposed to jumping in with an observation right away. Joe, can you be a little more specific? Do you have an example that you can give me? And then you're telling me about something to do with your business, and I might say, why do you suppose that's happening? Again, to getting you to talk, to kind of getting you to peel back the onion of some issue with billing or promoting a certain property or something. And then I might say, is this problem, has this issue been going on a long time? So kind of what I'm now trying to do is find out how far up in the pecking order this is in terms of an issue for you.
Right.
Okay. I've got some more issues there, but.
Well, one observation that I have is that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of times when you are a small business owner, you get into the business because you're very passionate about whatever it is that you're selling, whether it's a service, whether it's a product, and I'll just to pick something like, for instance, a dentist, right? They go through years of schooling. Yeah. They really want to work on people's teeth, but then they get to the point where now they go to open up their own dentistry practice. They're very skilled in what they do, but they have to actually do the system of actually finding clients.
People skills.
Building the business, right.
Yeah.
So, this is where I think investing in somebody that does sales training, somebody that helps build relationships, actually can be valuable. No different than if you go to college or university, or if you take continuing educational courses. It's building your skill sets, and I think the benefit is, in your particular case, is somebody that works one-on-one with you, right? I assume you work with people on trying to hone and build those skills. So
yeah, what we do can be anywhere from one-on-one executive coaching to sales training of a staff to I'm not a guy that writes a business plan and rides off into the sunset. To me, it's about the end result and helping. What is your brand? That's something that's kind of a cliche these days, but really going back to the unique value. How would you like to be perceived? And then what would be the messaging that we would come up with for that? And that's kind of why I ask a lot of open-ended questions, seek to understand before wanting to be understood. But you're right, people buy from people that they feel comfortable with and they trust. And so it's about credibility, that maybe you're investing your business in me. And the thing with smaller businesses, what you want to do is minimize your mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. You're maximizing your risk a little bit because you're a small business. You've got to jump into the fray and get your name out there. But you want to minimize risk, so you're thinking of what is the right thing to do and thinking it through, not exhaustively because you got to get out there. But what I do is talk to people about how they view their business, what is the unique service. You mentioned a dentist. I'll put in a plug for my Chelmsford dentist, Dr. Lou Stylos. And I'm the worst customer because I have a gag reflex, and he is
You're never fully dressed without a smile, right?
Yes, exactly. And he has been wonderful, and he and his staff have they're not a client. I'm a client of theirs. They have a excellent professional skill level as well as making you feel comfortable there. The whole idea is you're working with people, again, seeking to understand before wanting to be understood. And one of the things I do is help people, direct people as to what are the issues they have, and we'll come up with, in a collaborative way, what is the best solution, because whatever I might help them implement, I work for them, and it's got to be something that eventually they can handle on their own, and I work that way. But yeah, so it's about, I could talk a lot more, but I think it's about, just as obviously in your business, it's about building relationships, understanding, and always providing good service. And the way you do that is you ask a lot of open-ended questions.
Yeah, I think a lot of people start out thinking they provide good service, or that they're providing the best that they can. But usually when you get some sort of feedback, and I assume you've watched people in action and understood how they work and operate, it doesn't always necessarily translate. So tell me a little bit about how things start for you. Somebody is interested in sales training. I assume maybe you're an executive or a CEO or somebody that has people that maybe a sales force. from me personally, because I own a brokerage, I have multiple people that work underneath me, you know, I'm always worried about, you know, how those people can grow and inspire to be better. You know, do you work with people like that to help their staff grow and to educate them and
Sure.
help build their skill sets?
Absolutely. I've worked with people that are startup companies and a company of one all the way up into the low millions, okay? And what I do depends on what the need is, okay? And you know, you can, my website is targetingsalesgrowth.com. I have some case studies there. But yes, I work with companies to understand, it's always good to take an audit of where you are at any one given point, and particularly in a business like you have where, you know, I don't know if you have any downtime, maybe Christmas, but you're doing a lot of, you're again working in the business a lot, and it's good to step back, and I'm sure you do this, and figure out what are we doing well. It's always good to have a feedback loop. And people, you know, constructive feedback, what's going well and why is it going well, so you can continue those processes, and always understanding where you might do something more effectively or more efficiently. And also, what's the competition doing? Right. You know, that's always good to know, because we're in a competitive world. So I can talk to people in terms of a chief executive, and then having a discussion at that level, down to understanding where we might help in terms of sales training. I have been a sales rep as a hunter, you know, the farmers and the hunters. I've been a hunter for 35 years as a sales rep in the corporate world. So my support of clients is gone all the way from having a whiteboard discussion or whatever you have to understanding, you know, in a brainstorming session what's going well, or, you know, I've gone into offices where the guy's in shorts and a t-shirt, whatever works for them is what works for me. Just a discussion on what's going well to understand and where you want to take the business, to then having a little bit of a strategy of what's going to work, what's not, to understanding tactics of how you're going to implement this, to going on sales calls with people, and I've helped close business. So I think the idea is to understand what are issues that a company might have, or an individual, and to help them fine-tune their goals. Some people aren't sure about that, and then kind of give them some direction, and then guide them along the way. And if they have staff, kind of make sure the staff is getting what they need in terms of resources, in terms of sales training or maybe sales tools.
It sounds very simple, but I will tell you that, and you've mentioned it over and over again, it's the setting of goals, which is really probably the most important piece of it, right? Having the end game as to what you want to accomplish, right, which is probably what you help people set up, because you had mentioned that in sales, you know, you can always make one more call, there's always something to be done. And I read I don't know if you've ever read it, but it's a famous book called Time Traps.
Yep.
And I read that book, and one of the biggest takeaways, and it changed my life forever, is that there can always be one more call. There can always be something else that you should be doing or could be doing, because it's sales, so it's in some respects unlimited.
Right.
But I think what's important, especially because I have 4 kids, I have a wife, I have a family, I want to try to create some sort of balance that, you know, I can have time with them, I can always be successful in my career, but I think you have to set those goals ahead of time, right? So at the beginning of the year, what is it that I really want to accomplish? How do I want to set forth to make that happen? And then, you know, set those boundaries, right? I mean, you could make unlimited amount of money but spend no time with your family, and then you may be poor, you know, in that respect. So, you know, setting those boundaries is probably something that you've helped people do.
I think, yeah, there's got to be a balance in all aspects of everyone's life, a balance, and I think, you know, everything has got to be workable and it's got to be doable in the environment in which the business is operating, and training for staff is got to be workable and doable, and there's incremental. I had a boss a long time ago use the term incremental progress. So you have steps and you have benchmarks at those steps, and then you have other steps to get to the eventual goal. You don't go from A to Z. There was a great story of was it Thomas Edison with a light bulb, and I try to remember this. Say it took 767 steps. It took a long, exhaustive process. I remember reading this. And so and when he had the light bulb and he did a test and everything, and it came out that it took him 760 steps, and the reporter said, how could you have 759 failures to get there? And he said, no, those weren't failures. Those were learning steps on the way to success. So you have a plan and you have steps, and in your case, you have a plan to empower people, to give them more responsibility and more confidence and more goals and more incentives for that. And that's part of the overall process of you having balance, or whoever the chief executive is, as you get there. And one of the things I have down here on one of the open-ended steps is, what have you done so far about that as you start to talk about objectives? So what have you done so far? So finding out what have you done, and has that worked? And how long does it take you? What did you find that worked and didn't work? And here's a great question. How does that impact your business in terms of dollars and time? Okay, so those are the types of questions I'd ask, open-ended questions, but we're funneling down the process to help to get to a joint plan and implementation. And then I say, I understand we're getting down there. That we're fine-tuning the process. So what I'm hearing is this is a top step for you, and this is something that you're committed to doing. Do I have that right? To get acknowledgement. So that whatever we're coming up with, I've got to get a commitment from the guy or the woman I work for that this is something they're committed to, working on the business, and I'll help them with it. Because so many times people theoretically want to do something, but and I understand stuff happens and you got to work on it, and stuff hits the fan and you got to work on it, and then it's the discipline of implementing the plan that you set up to work on, so that you do have that balance in your life, and your business is growing, and part of growing is that you're elevating the skill set of your people and the responsibilities of your people.
It's one of those careers, right, that anybody can fall into, right? Sales is a very necessary evil in life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, certainly the world goes round by, products and services being exchanged, and that's, it's a critical piece to what we do every day. Give me some examples of successes you've had with clients that you've had.
Well, again, I use the process of seek to understand before wanting to be understood. I think if a company is successful and they want to grow their business, one of the things you try to do is find out give me an example of a customer that you're doing well with. And we peel back the onion. Why are you doing well? Well, you made some money or whatever, but what was it about that relationship, about that customer, that was a good customer? And we talk about the type of customer, the type of service that I'm talking about a particular client of mine, the type of service that you provided. What did it take for you to do that? A lot of people spend a lot of time on the cost of doing business. Sometimes companies give away too much before getting the sale. So we got into talking about the process that they took with this customer, and then we talk about how to replicate it. Well, in this particular company, in the businesses that I work in, and this is working on the business, sometimes there's different tools to document. There's something called a customer resource tool. People may know of Salesforce. Salesforce is a catalog, but you don't need that. I use something that's a lot more less costly, and it does what I need to do. What you're doing is you're documenting what you're doing with your customers. You're documenting your schedule. You know that 3 weeks from Tuesday you have an appointment with customer X, and when you talked to them last time you talked about A, B, and C. You write this in the documents, and this customer, their lead sales rep was, God forbid if he got hit by a truck, was all up here. You know, and one of the things I helped them do, help the CEO do, and then by extension the reps, is start to document what they did. Documented their prospecting plans, documented their conversations with their customers, document what emails they might have sent out, so that 3 weeks from Tuesday, when they're about to go on the call with this customer, they can quickly look at everything that's happened. And also, the management can look at everything that's happened. So you can guide the employee, you can find out what's going on, you can also do forecasting, because your sales reps have done forecasting. There's a forecasting piece in these tools. So in this particular case, we kind of worked at the CEO level and then worked at the rep level to help them, first of all, conceptually understand that it's critical to document what you do, and then for the reps to understand how this can help them in their next assignment. Now, some people are more conversant with computers than others, and some people, but if you can make it simple and show how your incremental progress can help them become more effective, and that some reps have their fiefdoms, and they in the very territorial, you can still keep control, but you can also, by your CEO seeing what you're doing, when you go to the CEO because you need X, Y, and Z support, they'll already know what you're doing, and so you get the support. So in this particular case, one of the big things as a management level, you know what's happening in the business. You know that this particular prospect looks like it's got a 60% chance of closing in September, and everything. You can forecast your business. Another thing, you can see what processes are working. You want to shorten, this will be right up your alley, you want to shorten the sales cycle. And the other thing I talk about is the buying cycle. People don't talk about the buying cycle. This is part of seeking to understand. Part of that in your seeking to understand is understanding how a prospect go about making a decision. You know, and in your business for sure. You know, what are their decision criteria, their selection criteria? And if you understand that, the biggest thing is, first of all, building the relationship, but also understanding how can you be more efficient in truncating the sales cycle.
One of the things that's made us successful, and you talk about that, is that, you know, we sell both services and products, right? So we have, you know, what we offer to clients from a marketing perspective, but we also have, you know, the physical houses themselves. And it's interesting because, you know, a person could buy a ranch in any community. They could buy a ranch in Chelmsford, they could buy a ranch in Barica, but the differentiator is really the community, being able to sell the communities, right? So, you know, from a real estate perspective, that's how we, you know, go about making the sales process quicker, because ultimately our customers, that's really what's stopping them from buying, right? They're trying to figure out, well, where do I want to live, right? So, you know, same thing. And I think it's just understanding your core market and what you're trying to achieve. So.
And what's their motivation? Is their motivation their children? Is their motivation to find a community like they lived in when they were a kid? Maybe I come from out of state. Is it motivation of fear? You know, that's part of understanding the buying cycle. You know, and you're right. You sell a product and a service. You know, so.
And I think the key behind the motivation is really so you can help people. I mean, ultimately, you know, you're trying to guide them in the right direction. And you know, the reason I bring it up is I had a gentleman come to an open house, and you know, I asked him, you know, have you been to other open houses. He said, "Oh yeah, I've actually been looking for the last 3 years." And I said,
yeah, that's,
you know, well, you know, why haven't, you know, in 3 years, why haven't you prayed? He just said, I just don't know where I want to live, right? I mean, ultimately it came down to he just had no basis for, you know, the communities that have been around. So that was his motivation, was trying to figure out exactly what the town was that he wanted to live in. He ended up buying in Chelmsford. Probably
how did that happen?
Probably because I provided consumer confidence. We have one of the best towns in the area, and I felt like, you know, I'd give him a little gentle nudge towards the...
So what helped this guy to go from looking for 3 years in all sorts of communities? What were the types of things that resonated with him that you said?
Well, for instance, it comes down to area amenities. You know, a lot of times, you know, you're looking at a particular neighborhood, but you don't know that there's a playground around the corner. You don't know that, you know, there may be a bike trail. You don't know that there's particular shops or restaurants or things that, you know, otherwise you would have known about. You know, when you're a native, I grew up in Chelmsford, I've been here, you know, a long time. I lived in Boston for a period of time, but, you know, ultimately I take those things for granted. I know where all the nooks and crannies are, but, you know, for somebody that's a relocation or somebody that's coming from out, they don't know about it, okay? No different than I recently purchased a minivan. So I had to go shopping.
With 4 kids,
With 4 kids, right? Like how do you transport 4 kids, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, what I'm looking for from the salesperson is, you know, what are the features that this car has to offer? You know, why is this particular car, you know, $3,000 more than this other car? You know, what are the benefits that I'm getting for this particular product? And I think that, you know, from a real estate perspective, you get a lot of times where people are saying, oh, this is great for a particular family, but they're not focused on really the features that product, being the house, has, right? So that's what we try to focus on first. What is the features of this house, and then how can we market it and make those services available to people that are interested in it? So, you know,
and you've been here a long time. Yeah.
I mean, that's you know, for us, obviously, we have, you know, a particular you know, skill set that we're good at, but I think that can be translated across all sales. And one of the things that I was very keen on was hiring people that were consultants that were good in sales, such as yourself, to come in and teach me, you know, how to make that happen. And you talked about goals, you know, setting, okay, what do we need to do? And maybe the goal for the salesperson is learning how to better talk about benefits and features of products that they have, or, you know, maybe it's setting a schedule, maybe it's entering calendar events. I mean, there's so, you know, every salesperson, right, and I'm sure you found this, is a little bit different, right? They have some sort of kryptonite that holds them back.
Right, exactly right. Everybody has things that they naturally gravitate to because those are their skill sets, and then you kind of want to have a high level of, you want to understand where people can use help, and you know, and that's what I help do. So I'd love to talk with you.
Yeah, well, this is what I want to ask you. The general audience, some of them, you know, are looking for, you know, sales training and sales help. How can they get a hold of you? And I assume that they can talk to you, you know, about your services and what you do. Sure.
I have a website called targetingsalesgrowth.com, and on there is my phone number. I'll give it, but some people like to pick up the phone. I have my email, my phone number. I'll give you everything. My phone number is 978-764-1760. My email is ray@targetingsalesgrowth.com, and the website is targetingsalesgrowth.com. And you know, I return phone calls, I return emails, I return everything, and I meet with people complimentary first time, because I need to understand what they want to do and figure out if this is an urgent thing they want to do, or if they or not, if it's an important thing, and then we figure out. I make a statement of work, and we figure out a plan, because I end up working for you or whoever it is. So that's how it happens. And I have a long background in business, and I have a 3-year background of working with targetingsalesgrowth.com. And I'm based in Westford, and I cover Eastern Mass and Southern New Hampshire, and wherever I can help somebody.
Awesome. Ray, we appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Joe.
We wish you much success in your
Thank
sales
you, Jessica.
growth.
You're very welcome,
Yeah.
Ray.
We'll take the microphone.
Yes, I don't drag it away with me. Appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Have a great night.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.